You're watching Sports World. Have your say. The team are standing by waiting to speak to you. Please do get in touch. Sue Smith is with me this week, and we're going to kick off with Manchester City. They've been breaking records on and off the pitch in the last few days. They've made the best ever start to a Premier League season. Not a bad haul of 34 points out of 36. But at what cost? They've also announced record losses of $308 million. Well, Markel's a City fan who's given us a call on Skype from the US. Seth is a Chelsea fan who joins us from Nairobi. Markel, let's start with you. Is the title yours?
Is the title ours? I don't think so, not yet. There's a lot of games left to be played, but I think we're doing very well so far, and I don't really see too many teams challenging us, so not yet, but working on it.
Sue, what do you make of City's start?
Yeah, I think they're doing fantastic. You know, I think that the fact that out of 12 games, they've won 11 of them, I can't see anybody catching them. You know, I think despite the amount of money that they've spent, I think it seems to be working, and, you know, they're top of the league and looking really, really strong.
Markel Mancini said this week you're level on terms with Real Madrid and Barcelona. Discuss.
I don't know about all that. I don't know about all that. We're a very good team, and we're the best team in England, if you ask me, but I don't think we're level on terms with Barcelona. Maybe Real, but not Barcelona, not yet.
Seth, what's your view?
It's a good start, I can say, but then the question should be answered is, are they able to sustain it all season long and the subsequent comings?
Well, it's funny you should say that. That's just what the Manchester City manager Roberto Mancini has been saying.
We started very well this season. We played football very well. We scored a goal, but we also know that the season will be very long and very hard. And now we play every 3 days. This could be a problem.
No team has ever won 11 of its opening 12 games in the Premier League. You've created history today.
Okay, but it's important that we continue to do this now, because when you play every 3 days, there will be the moment that you lose one game.
As a Manchester United fan, I'm hoping, frankly, that Manchester City stay in every competition and play as many games as they possibly can. But Markel, surely as a City fan, if anybody has the squad to cope, it is City.
I think so. I'd agree with that, except maybe the central midfielder. Mancini's right. He wants another central midfielder. He's trying to sign somebody over the next transfer period, and I think that's place we need to add to the squad. Other than that, I think we'll be fine.
OK, well, let's bring in a comment from Aduna. He's got in touch on Facebook from Nigeria and says, yes, they're spending, but on the right stuff. They're the most complete team in Europe. There's no lack of quality in that team. If only Mancini can manage their cathedral-size egos. Sue, it's an impressive factor from Mancini this season.
Yeah, it really is, and I think that's probably the most difficult thing. You've got all these fantastic players on massive amount of money and like you say, maybe big egos, and that's sometimes quite difficult to manage, but I think he seems to be doing a good job. They seem to have a good team spirit. They seem to be working well together, and I just looked at the bench yesterday, and the bench was like absolutely amazing. You know, the amount of money on there would have potentially got into any other Premier League team.
Markel?
Yeah.
Have you got any thoughts on that, and how impressed have you been with Mancini and his management of the squad?
I think Mancini has been a very, very good manager for the squad. When he first came to City, I was not a fan. I didn't like the fact that he played 10 defensive midfielders. I didn't like the fact that he was so negative. But I think that he's become a very good manager of the team. I've heard from some Italian friends when he was at Inter Milan that that's what he does. He comes into the team, he changes the culture. He cares about winning and nothing else, and that's all he's about. And you can see that's reflected in the squad right now. He got rid of perhaps the best player on the team out of hand because of the way he's been behaving, and he's gotten people who could replace him immediately, and it's just swap in, swap out. He doesn't care about anything but winning, and he's imposing his will on the team now, and it's being reflected because all they care about is winning, and they've been steamrolling people. I think that's definitely a very good reflection on Mancini.
Yeah, I think obviously the money's going to help with that. You know, he can afford to buy any player that he wants. He can afford to get rid of players like Tevez, for example, and I think that's definitely going to help. Do you not think?
I think the money is a big issue. I mean, we are the richest club in the world these days, so that's something that we can't necessarily skirt the issue of. But I feel as if we didn't have the money, Tevez would not be playing. I feel as if we didn't have the money, we'd swap people in and swap people out, and maybe they wouldn't be as good. Maybe they wouldn't be good enough to get us to the top of the table right now, but we'd still be a very functional side because Mancini just does not care about the egos. He makes the egos submit to his will instead of submitting to theirs.
I think that's a really good point, because I think as a manager, I think that's what you have to do. I don't think you can let players dictate to you, and I think, you know, he's made a good point, and he's set out his stall from the very beginning. You know, if you behave like that, I won't play you in the team. So I think that was a really good thing of him to do, and I think other managers maybe have to take that, you know, that sort of way. But can they if they don't have the money? That's the issue.
That is the thing. Muoka Clement has commented on Facebook saying, let us wait and see if money can buy the trophy. Of course, all this money coming from Sheikh Mansour. He's invested something in the region of 800 million into Manchester City. But how big a worry is it for City that all this success is coming with all this debt?
I think it's a very big worry. But that being said, I think every team around the world that has a lot of success is in debt. Barcelona has the most debt in the world, if I'm not mistaken. The last time I checked, they had the most debt in the world, but they've been the most productive club. I think that the debt that City is facing is more of a product of the system of football in general. It seems to me, sitting here, that the system is flawed and it needs to be changed because people can spend all this money. I mean, you look at Rangers up in Scotland, they're doing very well as well, but they're about to be shut down, apparently. It seems to be a systematic problem more than just a problem with the one club.
Seth, is it a given that for success you need money? That's how Chelsea got their success in recent time.
Money comes in, yes, and it comes with success. But then, after first season, second season, people get used to it. After that, what next? Now see Manchester City are doing very well, yeah? It's almost perfect, almost 100% record at the start. But then, after the next 2 seasons, will they be able to do that? Even if they win the trophy, which I'm sure they can, yeah? They've got an embarrassment of talents. But then, after that, what will they do? Will they be able to sustain that squad, that man? Will it keep on flowing in? And even if a new coach comes in, will he be able to keep on what the previous coach did?
Well, yeah, thoughts of a Ugandan has got in touch with us on Facebook and says, how long can you spend just to win? Chelsea have showed us you can't sustain that kind of venture with huge losses. 194.9 million is nonsense. And Sue, it makes teams like Everton's job very hard, doesn't it?
It really does. And, you know, I think what they're trying to sort of say is the fact that they're going to spend a lot of money initially, but then after, you know, 2-3 years, they're going to make that back, which, you know, it's a hell of a lot of money, but I do think that they can make it back. I think, you know, obviously commercial, you know, TV rights, you know, people coming to games, you know, and success brings money. So I think it does, you know, listening to the guests, they have been saying that you have to spend to be successful, and that seems to be the case with Chelsea, with Man United, you know, and now with Man City. So it's a shame for, like you say, the likes of Everton and the teams that don't have any money. You know, will they never be successful? It's such a sort of disappointing thing in football at the minute.
Well, let's welcome Sam. He's a Manchester City fan who joins us from Ireland. Sam, are you happy with the debt as long as City are winning?
Well, I would take issue with you. I don't think it's a debt. It's a loss, and that has been covered in an equity swap, hasn't it? So, I mean, the Sheikh is spending his own money rather than, say, for example, the Glazers taking money out of the club. I'd much rather have an owner who's willing to put money in than one who takes it out.
But what about this against the backdrop of the UEFA financial fair play rules that get brought in next year? How are they going to survive that?
Well, there are 2 things I would say in that score. Firstly, there's nothing in the history of UEFA or FIFA that has ever suggested that they would be, shall we say, disinclined to deal with billionaires. And secondly, I think this City are actually going to be in a very healthy financial situation with the Etihad money, with the renegotiation of the Umbro deal, with the money from finishing possibly first or second in the Premiership, and also commercially they've grown by 50% their commercial revenue this year. So if they can keep going at anything similar to that rate, FIFA fair play, or financial fair play rather, won't be a problem.
That's got to be a worry, Sue. Can you, I mean, really, can you see UEFA letting their flagship competition go without the big names?
That's the thing, you know, and I think that's the underlying factor. I think they have to be successful, you know, as any team does. I think to be successful, then they're going to bring the money back. But that's a good question. Will UEFA let that happen? I can't see that happening, no.
Markel, what's your view?
I definitely don't think they'll let that happen. I mean, if Barcelona was so far in debt that they would be outside of FIFA fair play, do you really think Barcelona won't be allowed to play in the Champions League? I don't think that's going to happen at all. FIFA has a long history of getting around things, as Sam said. So I think City might be able to get around that too. But Sam also brings up a good point in that the Sheikh is spending his own money. We're not necessarily in debt. We've lost a lot of money. He's lost a lot of money, but it's his own money. And hopefully the way things are going with the club, they'll be able to make it up in 3 to 5 years, you know, so.
But haven't you got to feel sorry for everybody else? One individual with all this money skews the system for the rest, doesn't it?
I do feel sorry for everybody else. I actually enjoy Everton. I think David Moyes is an excellent manager, and I really love the club ethos there. But the thing about that is that City was doing the same thing. It's a different type of success. Success for Everton is being able to stay up, compete in the mid-table. Success for City 4 or 5 years ago was the same thing. Success for City 5 years ago was not being relegated. It does skew things, and it's quite unfair, but I really can't be mad at Sheikh Mansour for spending his money on something that he sees as a worthwhile investment, because that's what he sees it as. He's changing East Manchester, if I'm not mistaken. He's changing a lot of things around City of Manchester Stadium. He's changing a lot of things and giving a lot of people opportunities. So if he sees it as an investment, I'm just happy we were the lucky group that he chose to do it with.
But what happens when he gets bored and ships out to his next project?
I don't think he's getting bored, though. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, he's building a lot of things, like structure-wise, systems-wise. It doesn't seem to me as he's getting bored. If he does get bored, I mean, we're City. We're used to being screwed, aren't we?
OK, I'm going to leave it there. What do you think? Is it a price worth paying for success on the pitch? Please do get in touch with us. Maybe send us a message on Twitter using the hashtag SWHYS. Chelsea were, of course, Manchester City's predecessors as the biggest losers, but that doesn't mean they're necessary success on the pitch, as was proven today. We're going to be talking about them in just a couple of minutes. Welcome back to Sports World Have Your Say. Let me welcome Mark. He's a Chelsea fan who joins us from Uruguay, because Chelsea were Manchester City's predecessors as the biggest losers. They were $223 million in debt in 2005, but money can't always buy happiness, as they say. They were beaten 2-1 by Liverpool in the Sunday game. Mark, what was your reaction to that today?
Yeah, I guess a bit of a shame. Being as I live in Uruguay, I've got a soft spot for Liverpool at the moment, so I suppose it's not too bad. But yeah, in general this year, Chelsea, I think we've been playing better actually, and we're a lot more fun to watch than we were. But yeah, we're obviously having trouble with the getting the next generation of players through, or reforming the team from what we had with under Mourinho. And with the first lot of money that Abramovich put in, but it's perhaps it's you can do it once, but repeating it is the hard thing.
Mark, how did you feel about the defence today? Because for me, I've watched Chelsea a few times, and I feel like they just get opened up by teams too easily. I think in the Jose Mourinho era, he sort of settled the defence, made sure that was okay, and then he expressed the players going forward. But I feel now the defence is getting opened up too easily. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're becoming a bit of a joke at the back, to be honest. Obviously, Terry's a very good player, but he's had 1 or 2 unfortunate games. Luis is, I'm not quite sure about. I mean, me in the Mourinho era, Carvalho was our best player. He was fantastic, and I think he really organised everything fantastic at the back. And I think letting him go was perhaps a mistake, or letting him go so early.
Yeah, because actually,
somebody as good as him.
Yeah, I love the way Chelsea are, they want to go forward, they want to express, their fullbacks are expressing themselves, they're going forward, they're attacking, and I think that's fantastic. But I just think for Chelsea to settle things up a little bit, just settle things down, I think they need to sort their back four out. And at the minute, against Liverpool today, they just seemed all over the place, and I think that's something that they definitely need to look into.
And that's really got to increase the pressure on manager Andre Villas-Boas, hasn't it, Seth?
First, our team is aging. Chelsea is aging, and that's a fact which many people are overlooking, but it's there. Look at Terry. Even today, he was seriously struggling. If he would have won, it would have been much more than luck. But we saw it. Our back four is struggling, even our midfield. And all we need is some serious injection of fresh blood, young team coming in, and maybe the aging team getting somebody like Terry. He's been in Chelsea long enough. Maybe he can go back to the boardroom, something of such, or the management. He can even join the academy, which is okay with him, I'm sure. But I know it can still be done. It's not yet late. We still have a chance to do it.
I have to disagree with the Terry point. I think Terry, for me, is still, I think they still need him in the defence for his experience, for his organisation. I just think at the minute he's having a bit of an iffy time, on and off the field, and I think that slightly affecting his football. I don't know. Today he seemed a little not really the usual Terry that we're used to seeing.
Let's just put into context that result. Chelsea 4th in the table after that today. 12 points off leaders Manchester City. That's the battle at the top end of the table. But in terms of the bottom, the big game on Saturday was Blackburn against Wigan. 3-3 it finished, and one of the most controversial incidents to be seen so far this season over Blackburn's second goal. Sue, talk us through it. I know you've seen it. Comedy moments.
Amazing. I was watching it on actually Match of the Day. I heard the reports before, but I watched it on Match of the Day, and it was just crazy. It was, Yakubu went to take the corner, actually missed the ball completely, and then they run in and scored. So it was obviously the referee thought Yakubu had touched the ball, and there was, all confusion over that. And I've actually seen that done before, but actually done properly. So yeah, Martinez isn't a very happy bunny, and obviously his comments after the game, for me, he was quite right to not be happy, because it shouldn't have been a goal, it shouldn't have been allowed.
We've actually got some of those comments. Let's have a listen.
The second goal is an absolutely disgrace. Those things shouldn't be allowed. It happens too often, but I hope that we can build on the performance that we did today, and hopefully we'll get lucky one day and get the points that we dropped today.
So that was the Wigan view. Let's bring in a friend of the show, Jason Roberts, to give us the view from the Blackburn dressing room. You guys probably laughing quite loud, were you, Jason? Is Jason Roberts there on the phone? Our friend of the show. Jason, can you hear me? Oh, I'm afraid we've lost Jason, but let's come back to you, Sue. There was a lot of talk, people saying that's cheating, isn't it? Shouldn't they have put their hands up?
Yeah, I think Jason's still probably laughing. I think that's why he's not on the show. But yeah, I think it can. Was he cheating? Was it not? I've got to give them benefit of the doubt. I think that they thought that Yakubu had touched the ball, so I'll definitely give them the benefit of the doubt on that one. But yeah, people have linked it to diving in the box and things like that. But I think for me, it's quite clever play. Like I say, I've seen it done before, and it does actually work. If you speak to the officials beforehand and say that's what you're going to do, and I suppose it's up to the team. So it's up to Wigan to switch on and sort of see that they were doing it, but they actually didn't do it properly. So so that was I think that's the main issue. Around this.
And people say when it's going your way, it's going your way, and when it's not, it's not. And you've got a feel for Wigan, haven't you?
Oh, definitely. And they played so well, and it was just like he looked so disappointed. Martinez in the interview after the game, he looked so disappointed. It's like, what do I need to do to win a game? And he actually had a penalty shout as well, which for me was a penalty. So he's just not got the luck at the minute, and that's exactly what he needs. He needs a little bit of luck and start winning, and then they get into that winning mentality. So hopefully they can move up the league. But at the minute, it just seems everything's going wrong.
Well, Sue, I think we can now bring in Blackburn's Jason Roberts. Thanks for joining us. What on earth did you guys make of that in your dressing room yesterday?
Well, it was a strange game, Amanda. We were, in one way, we really happy because he showed a lot of character to keep going and to get the point in the end. But a little bit of disappointment in the respect that we went ahead in the game. Obviously, we had someone sent off. We'll take the point that we showed so much character, but these are the games when you go ahead, you want to try to close out, and a couple of times we've been found wanting in that respect.
I've got to talk about the corner, though. The corner that wasn't, that was a goal, that shouldn't have been. You guys must have been laughing your heads off.
Well, I can't say we were laughing. I mean, I don't think anybody noticed what happened. Even the Wigan players, no one seemed to appeal. Yak's gone over and put the ball down and has made a sort of gesture like he's touched it. And Gamsa just took the chance and gone with the ball. And, you know, from the referee's point of view, he'll be a little bit disappointed because it looks like he didn't see it. Certainly none of the Wigan players saw it or even appealed afterwards. So it was certainly a strange situation, one I've never seen anything like that before in football.
And hey, you'll take it when it comes to you. Jason, thank you very much. We're going to be talking Sepp Blatter in just a couple of minutes on Sports World Have Your Say. Please don't go anywhere and do get in touch. Hello, you're watching Sports World Have Your Say. Loads of you getting in touch. We've been talking football finances, Manchester City and Chelsea. Austin Joseph has got in touch with us at BBC Sportswise on Twitter using the hashtag SWHYS and says AVB will be worse than Scolari. Chelsea should replace him with Hiddink before he do bigger damage. He has no starting 11. Matthew Ndini has said money brought Chelsea some success. All that matters to the players and fans is the glory that comes with it. Please do get in touch with us. Maybe you can go onto Twitter and use the hashtag SWHYS. But we're going to move on because it's been a week for the head of FIFA, Sepp Blatter, to forget. Some English players, though, certainly aren't going to let him in a hurry. There's a poster that has been doing the rounds on Twitter today. That is it. It's a comment on the kick racism out of football poster that they have altered to say kick Blatter out of football. It's just the latest response to his controversial comments on racism, for which Mr. Blatter has since apologised.
It hurts, and I'm still hurted because I couldn't expect or just envisage such a reaction, but the reaction is there. And when you are in a situation where you have done something which was absolutely not totally correct, otherwise it wouldn't have created this, I can only say I'm sorry for all those people. They have been affected by my declarations.
Have you thought in the last 48 hours that you would walk away, that you might resign?
Oh no, I cannot. I cannot resign. Why should I resign? When you are faced with a problem, you have to solve the problem, and to go out and to leave the organization, this would be unfair.
That was Sepp Blatter talking to the BBC Sports editor, David Bond. He said he was surprised with the reaction to his comments. There's certainly a lot being made of them here in England, Mark, but what's been the reaction where you are in Uruguay?
Perhaps here in Uruguay, people might have some sympathy with that sort of comment in terms of, because I mean, here in Uruguay at the moment, we've got the whole thing with Suarez and his problems, and that is getting a lot of press. And generally here, people think that a lot is being made out of that. And I know that Gustavo Poyet also the other day kind of made similar comments to Blatter, saying that, you know, players should you know, not make a meal of these things and get on with the game. I'm very surprised, though, at Blatter trying to say that he couldn't have foreseen the fuss that you know, what he said was going to cause.
Markel, what's
seems
the
hard to believe.
Markel, what's the reaction in the States been?
I think the reaction here has been a bit more outrage because of our long and dark history with racism. a lot of people are very outraged at Sepp Blatter here. A lot of people feel Sepp Blatter's time has come, and this is just the final straw. He's done so many bad things for the game of football, and this is the last thing that he's done, and it should very well be the last thing. He needs to go. I don't personally get it, how he can say that there's no racism in football when John Terry is accused of saying something racial to a black man, when Patrice Evra is saying that Luis Suarez said something to him, when Roberto Carlos gets things thrown at him at a game, when Vicente del Bosque tells his players to go after Thierry Henry, the black one. There is a long history of racism in the game, and Sepp Blatter is just so out of touch with things, and this is just the final instance of him being out of touch. And people here are very, very mad at him, and we all feel like it's his time to go.
Sadly, it might not be the final touch, though. He says he's going nowhere.
As for the game, this Qatar World Cup thing, or the whole sexism when he says that women players should wear tighter uniforms, stuff like that, he's a terrible leader for the game of football, and he really needs to go. I think the whole Kick Blatter Out of Football campaign is a wonderful campaign. I don't know if it'll get anywhere, but I think that the traction is there, and I personally believe that he has to go for the good of the game.
I have to totally agree with Marco. You know, I think that's just the final thing that he said. Like he mentioned earlier, he said that about women's football. You know, the only way that it's going to get more popular is if they wear skimpy clothes. And, you know, that was one comment. And it's just comment after comment. And I think it is time now, I think, for new, fresh blood with new ideas. And even his apology, you know, a lot of people said, well, it takes a big man to apologise, which is true. But for me, it didn't seem sincere. You know, he didn't apologise for what he said. He apologised for the people that he'd offended. So for me, that wasn't sincere. So I totally agree with Marco, and I think, yeah, kick Blatter out as well.
Well, Gavin Bailey said on Facebook, another example of the old man knowing nothing about football and out of touch with the modern game. Let me welcome Ronald, a Liverpool fan from Nairobi. Is it just an English issue with Sepp Blatter, Ronald?
Not really. I personally think this is politics being played by Blatter's rivals. Yes, racism is there in the sport, we all know that. But personally, I think, in my own view, Blatter tried to put the aspect of sportsmanship. Rivals meet in a game, they play against each other. I personally was in the field and my team was losing. I'd be frustrated or something. Then temper my tries, I'd say something nasty to an opponent or something. Yeah, shaking hands is a start. It's a start of resolving something bad that happened in the pitch. Personally, I believe Blatter was in the right way. Yes, he has his faults. No one in this world is perfect. So I strongly believe these people all over the world who are lashing out at Blatter, they have something against him. So this is politics being played. Especially people in the FIFA body, they would really, really want him to leave.
OK, well, let me welcome Albert to Sports World Have Your Say. He's picked up the phone and given us a call from Spain using the number +44 20 70 83 73 33. Albert, are they making a big deal of this in Spain?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go and make your point, Albert.
Okay, my point is this. For Mr. Blatter, I don't like what he says anyway. Racism is something that's supposed to clear out from football, because it's something that brings the whole world together. You see, just for instance, when the match between Real Madrid and Spain, that this guy puts on the mouth and say mono, but such is not something to be happening in football, you know. So I think what he says is very bad anyway. For me, I would say I don't want it to be there anymore.
On the plus side, Sue, he has brought the issue of racism in football back into the public domain, and people are talking about it.
Yeah, definitely. You know, that is one plus, I think. But, you know, his comments are laughable. I think if he wasn't FIFA president, you know, it would be laughable. But he's a role model. He's somebody that should be saying, you know, the right things, and, you know, other people will look up to him and think, oh, is that the right thing to say? And, you know, we were talking about racism sort of before that, obviously the John Terry incident and things like that. So, you know, I think it was a hot topic anyway. And then for him to sort of just fuel that, it was just silly of him. And you know, maybe it is time for him to go. And I keep saying that, and maybe that's wrong of me to say, but That's my opinion. I think there's been too many times he said things wrong now. So I think it is time.
Like, over and over and over again. This isn't the first time. This isn't the second time. He said so many things that are so wrong for such a long time. I feel like he's completely out of touch. I feel like him being the president of FIFA right now is just an embarrassment for the game. He's an embarrassment for himself, and he needs to get out.
So who is going to take the action? There are 208 FIFA member countries, but who is going to take that step?
I don't know. I personally can't tell you the answer to that question. I don't know if FIFA possesses anybody that would be able to step up to the mantle that they need to, but I just know that Sepp Blatter is no longer the answer.
Okay, thank you for now. What do you think about the comments that Sepp Blatter has made? And is he the future of football? I think we all know the answer to that, but please do get in touch and make your point. We'll be back here on Sports World Have Your Say in just a couple of minutes. Hello, welcome back to Sports World Have Your Say. David Beckham's preparing for what could be his last game for LA Galaxy in the MLS Cup final against Houston Dynamo. He's coming to the end of his 5-year contract in the States. People are talking about his legacy. So let me welcome Yvonne, an LA Galaxy fan from South Carolina. What is his legacy, Yvonne, in your opinion?
I think David Beckham's legacy in the MLS is absolutely stunning. In the 5 years that he's been here, I think that he's more than fulfilled his sort of secondary purpose, shall we say, of raising the profile of the sport. If you stop anybody in the street and you ask them to name a player, they're going to be able to name David Beckham. In terms of play, I think he's raised the level of play on the field, and I also think that he's raised awareness in terms of youth development more than we could have done by ourselves. I really honestly believe that, and I will be devastated if he doesn't stay one more year. But that's kind of selfish on my part, I know.
I'm afraid not everybody agrees with you. Keith Alexander says on Facebook, I don't think his legacy in the MLS is all that great. His injuries and apparent half-heartedness, loan spells in Italy, missing matches to go to the royal wedding, etc., have left a sour taste.
Well, that's not true. I just don't think that's true. I do think that there are lots of naysayers, and I do think that his celebrity has sometimes superseded his ability on the field in terms of public perception. But when you watch David Beckham on the field, I think he's totally involved with every game in which he plays. And I don't think the same thing can be said of some other DPs that we have. I don't think Henry plays the same way at all. I think that he's playing for the money. I think Beckham's playing for the love of the game. And yeah, it's like any other business or any other kind of institution. I'm sorry, but those people who do things particularly well, they are going to get some special treatment. Maybe he shouldn't have gone to the wedding, but it's his country, and we do need to remember that. A lot of people are upset right now because Robbie Keane stayed in Ireland to play for his country. I think in the American system, when you have designated players from foreign countries, you're just going to have to make allowances for that. There's just not another way to have those people on our teams, raising the level of play, raising the level of awareness, raising the level of awareness in terms of needing a better youth development academy system than we do.
Well, you've just seen the number there at the bottom of your screen to give us a call on the telephone. Josephus has done just that from the UAE. What's your point about David Beckham? Josephus, can you hear me?
Well, hello? Hello? Yes, can you get me? I can hear you. Yeah, hello?
Fire away. What's your point about David Beckham in the MLS?
Okay, for me, I think David Beckham needs to play his last game and hang his boots, because it looks like the law of diminishing returns is taking place. He's a great player. A well-disciplined player. We respect him a lot in UAE and in Africa. I think it's just because age is telling now, he can't do more than what he's able to do. He loves the game. He's one person that has passion for the game, not money. I think he needs to earn his boots and call for a charity match even if they can come to South Africa and play a game with the African players and give the money to the poor people, I think that would be better, because Africans love David Beckham. He's one of the most respected players in the Premiership in England and in the world. But he needs to quit the game with honors, not to stay any longer.
See, I have to totally disagree there. I've got to say, I think David Beckham should keep going, because I personally think that he should be picked for the Olympics. I think he's a fantastic role model. So off the field, I think it would be excellent for the Olympic Games. But also on the field, you know, watching him play for LA Galaxy, he's still got it. He's still the best player and shines every time I see him play. And you know, I know you can argue maybe it's not the best standard. So potentially, should he move to a team in Europe, which I think he's thinking about before, you know, obviously the Olympics. But for me, I think he should keep going. I think as long as his legs are still going and his brain's still willing, which it is, because he still wants to play and he wants to be part of the Olympics, I don't think he should hang his boots up at all.
And I have to agree with that. I really do agree with that. I'm sorry to interrupt. Okay. I know how old he is. Everybody knows how old he is. It's insane. He gets on the field and he can outplay people half his age. And part of that is just experience. Part of it is the level of fitness. And I'm not an idiot. Of course, he shouldn't be out there when he's 40. And the problem that I see is that even at his age, we have players here who aren't playing up to that standard. And I think that if he can continue to cause people in the MLS to play better, play at a higher level, then one more year is not going to make that big difference. And he hasn't been particularly any more injury prone than anyone else. And I watch LA Galaxy. I've watched LA Galaxy for years and years, and I have seen them really rise in the last 5 years since with David Beckham's influence. And I honestly think that he has at least another year in him.
Definitely. I think
I'd like to jump in here right quick and say I'd have to disagree with Sue and Yvonne, probably because he's an ex-United player and I still have some bad feelings about that. But he is still a very, very good football player. His right foot is still par excellence, and he can do magical things with that right foot. And I'd love to see him play in the Olympics. I also like to say that the simple fact that we're having this conversation on this network in England speaks to David Beckham's importance to the MLS. His job, as Yvonne said earlier, is done in a lot of ways. He has raised the profile of the American game to a point where Americans can talk about the game comfortably with people from England. And 6 years ago, that probably would have never happened. I think David Beckham has been incredible for the MLS, for the game in this country. And I really would like to see him stay another year because of all he's done for us.
But then I'd like to see him stay another year. And I know that $6.5 million a year, that's a tremendous amount of money. It's a tremendous gamble for somebody that age, simply because in physiological terms, he is about at the end of his career. But at the same time, when you think about the revenue that he brings in, when you think about the interest that he brings in America, it's every little boy's dream almost to grow up and be a professional athlete. The chances, I think, are 1/100th of 1% that a child who plays basketball in his neighborhood is actually going to end up in the NBA. More and more, especially men, are thinking of MLS as a career now. In the last 5 years, I teach school. I know this to be true. I hear this on a daily basis, and I think just for that alone, he's just done a tremendous amount.
Well,
yeah, that might be his lasting impact. Americans never thought about playing football professionally. I was a college football player when I was in school, and I never thought about football as something as a viable option. I know from my younger brothers and people their age, they look at soccer. They think maybe I could be a player in the MLS or even beyond that. And that's what I mean when I say that he's accomplished his purpose of raising the profile of the game in this country.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
well, I'm really sorry. We're going to have to stop this conversation because David Beckham isn't giving anything away about what next from him. But from a star of European football and now American football, the shortlist for the BBC African Footballer of the Year has been announced this week. Dede Ayew, Samuel Eto'o, Javinho, Seydou Keita and Yaya Toure all in the running. Let's welcome back Ronald, a Liverpool fan in Nairobi. What do you make of the shortlist, Ronald?
The shortlist is very okay. And personally, I would, if I were given the opportunity to vote, I'd vote for Yaya Toure. He's been superb once he was in Man City. Samuel Eto'o, personally, I think he's had his share. Right now he's playing very well in Russia. Dede Ayew, the team is not really performing. The spotlight is not really on him. So I'd say Yaya Toure is the best person to be given that award. He's doing really well at Man City. He did well at Barcelona, and right now he's also showing he can do well in another club. He's proven that he's a world-class player.
I think that's quite interesting as well, because he isn't a centre forward, and usually the awards go to centre forwards that score lots of goals. So I think that shows just what a great player he is. The fact that he's been nominated firstly, but the fact that week in, week out, he produces fantastic, performances, and he's probably the first name on the team sheet in a team full of stars. So I think I'd have to totally agree with that. I would give it to Yaya Toure as well.
But why do you think, Ronald, that Africa produces so many great players who come to all the teams around Europe, but actually as national teams at the moment, they're not being so successful?
I think probably it's the field, the company he has in the field. I believe if you have a caliber of good players in a pitch, then you also want to be as good as your teammates. You won't want to let your teammates down. But you see, football is not a one-man effort. It's an 11-man effort. So when these people come back home, there are some players rely on them, as in they want to see what they did in Europe. It's difficult. Africa here, we also have to upgrade our games. For example, Barcelona, people chant Messi's name, but probably Messi wouldn't be Messi without the likes of Xavi or Iniesta. These two players are very crucial to whatever Messi does in the field. So if Yaya Toure or Eto'o is to come back home and perform the caliber he performs when he's in Europe or something, the teammates also have to try and do something about something. The adrenaline rush has to be there. The teammates have to back him up to produce what he produces in Europe.
Okay, thank you everybody for getting involved in today's programme. We started the show talking records, but just before we go, we've got to mention another Huddersfield Town. If you haven't heard of them, they play in the third tier of English football. Their 2-1 win on Saturday was their 43rd game unbeaten, a new Football League record. Not bad at all. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back same time, same place next week for more debate. Goodbye.